Have you ever noticed that while billions of people share every second of their lives online, there's a small group that chooses the opposite? Complete silence? No posts, no stories, no digital trace. It's almost as if they vanished from the map, quietly watching the world through the cracks of their screens. In an era where likes have become oxygen, that kind of absence feels almost suspicious. But what if that silence isn't neglect, but purpose? These people aren't disconnected. They're more aware than ever. They see everything but rarely leave a trace. They don't seek validation, they seek meaning. And while the rest of the world screams for attention, they find power in invisibility. Psychologists call it social self-control, the ability to resist the need to be seen. A quiet rebellion against a culture obsessed with exposure. And this is where the story gets interesting. Because silence deep down isn't emptiness, it's choice. And understanding the reason behind that choice reveals much more than it seems. What really goes on in the mind of someone who prefers to observe rather than show? What do they know that the rest of the world forgot? This is where silence stops being a mystery and starts to make sense. What if I told you that being silent on social media can reveal more about the human mind than 1,000 daily posts? Researchers have found that people who rarely share tend to be more introspective, emotionally independent, and less influenced by social comparison. While the world seeks approval, these people seek understanding. What looks like isolation is often clarity. They're not running from exposure. They're choosing what's worth revealing. Behind this behavior lies a fascinating psychology. The act of not posting is, in fact, a form of control. Control over what the world gets to know. It's the refusal to let algorithms define identity. These people watch more, react less, and think before they speak. They don't need to prove who they are. They're busy trying to understand it. And in that pursuit, they find a kind of freedom that visibility will never provide. But the most curious thing is how that choice changes everything. The way they see the world, the way they feel, the way they connect. While most people drown in noise, those who live in silence learn to listen. And that's where the game flips. Because real power doesn't come from being seen, but from seeing clearly. Yet this power comes with a price. And the next part reveals something surprising. Did you know that the less someone shares their life, the stronger their sense that it truly belongs to them? There's a concept in psychology called psychological ownership that explains exactly this. When you post something, you lose a piece of the feeling that the moment is yours alone. Every like, every comment turns the intimate into the collective, and little by little what was personal becomes public and vulnerable. That's why many prefer silence. They understand that keeping certain experiences private is not secrecy, it's protection. Every memory kept off the internet remains pure, intact, free from interpretation. For them, privacy is power. The power to decide what stays untouched. While others seek applause, they seek authenticity. And that decision, far from weakness, is an act of resistance against digital noise. But there's something even deeper in that choice. When you stop turning your life into a showcase, you start rediscovering what truly matters. Small gestures regain meaning, and the world feels less performative. Yet that detachment from the gaze of others also changes something else. Your relationship with validation itself. And that's where silence turns into liberation. Did you know that every like you receive activates the same reward circuit as a chemical addiction? Studies show the brain releases dopamine, the pleasure neurotransmitter, every time a post is noticed. It's an invisible cycle of approval and reward, designed to keep you hooked to the screen. The feeling is fleeting but addictive, and without realizing it, we start measuring our worth through others' reactions. Those who choose digital silence, however, break that cycle. They free themselves from the need for applause and rediscover the joy of living without an audience. They don't think about angles, captions, or engagement. They just live. The world becomes something to feel, not to display. By refusing easy dopamine, they cultivate something far rarer: emotional stability and autonomy over their own worth. And that's when silence takes on a new meaning. It stops being absence and becomes presence, real, conscious presence. Because when the noise of notifications fades, what's left is you, whole. But that freedom often comes after a fatigue few dare to admit, a deep emotional exhaustion. The next stage of the story that almost no one talks about. Have you ever felt exhausted from being online all the time, even when doing nothing? That exhaustion has a name: Digital fatigue. It's the invisible weight of being constantly watched, evaluated, and compared. Studies show that the more time we spend on social media, the higher the risk of anxiety and dissatisfaction. It's like living on a stage that never closes its curtains, and eventually, the show starts to lose its meaning. Many who vanish from social media don't do it out of indifference, but out of emotional survival. They're tired of self-presentational pressure, the unconscious need to appear happy, interesting, successful. The mind wears itself out trying to please an invisible audience until silence becomes the only form of rest. Logging off becomes a quiet cry for authenticity, an urgent plea for peace. And in that moment of rupture, something powerful happens. By choosing withdrawal, they're not escaping, they're healing. And what they find on the other side of that silence is something many have forgotten: the joy of existing without performance. But that healing comes with an even deeper rediscovery, reconnecting with what's real, with life beyond the screen. Did you know that the less we show, the more genuinely we live? In a world obsessed with proof and exposure, the simple act of not posting has become a form of authenticity. It's like going back to the origins, feeling a moment without needing to prove it happened, cooking without photographing, laughing without recording, existing without witnesses. That freedom is almost revolutionary in an age where everything is performance. Those who choose this path aren't rejecting technology. They're redefining what's real. They seek presence, not performance. They trade filters for genuine experiences, and likes for connections that don't need evidence. They've realized not every moment needs a stage. That life's value isn't in views, but in meaning, the kind that remains even without an audience. And in that authentic silence, something begins to bloom, a lightness that only those who've disconnected truly know. The peace of living without proving, the calm of feeling without sharing. But this kind of peace doesn't appear out of nowhere. It usually comes after emotional collapse, after a limit has been crossed. And that's where the most human and profound part of the journey begins: silent healing. Did you know that many who disappear from social media never planned it? They simply reached their limit? Constant exposure drains, exhausts, and kills the desire to exist in public. What once was fun becomes heavy. Every post feels like an obligation, every comment like a judgment. Then one day, without warning, they stop. And that silence, which looks like absence, is actually the first step toward healing. It's an almost invisible process. There's no announcement, no goodbye, just a gradual slowing down. Notifications start to matter less. Algorithms lose importance and the gaze turns inward. It's the moment they realize how far they drifted from themselves while trying to please the world. And the return is quiet but profound, a reunion with their true essence, without filters, without performance, without audience. That kind of healing isn't fast or easy. It's a discreet rebirth where each offline day gives back a piece of sanity, and when the external noise finally fades, something shifts. The world regains texture, color, and weight. But what comes after that reconnection is even more transformative. The rediscovery of what's real, of life beyond the glow of screens. Have you noticed how the world looks different when you step away from the screen? Colors grow richer, time slows down, conversations become deeper. It's as if digital silence reawakens dormant senses. Suddenly, sunsets need no captions, and the laughter beside you means more than any notification. That's the true feeling of presence, something many have forgotten how to experience. Research shows that people who take long breaks from social media report higher levels of satisfaction and emotional stability. The reason is simple. Without constant comparison and stimulation, the brain relaxes, and the body starts to feel the moment instead of performing it. Cooking, walking, talking, and everything becomes experience again, not content. It's like reclaiming control over your perception of time and life. But this reconnection brings something even more powerful, a new way of seeing the value in simple things. Reality becomes enough again. The ordinary becomes beautiful. And in this rediscovery of what's genuine, a quiet confidence emerges. The kind that doesn't need to be seen to feel whole. Yet that confidence hides an even greater strength. True emotional self-sufficiency. What if I told you that real confidence makes no noise? In a world where everyone competes to speak louder and show more, there's a kind of strength that operates in silence. It's the calm of someone who doesn't need to prove anything, who knows exactly who they are, even when no one's watching. That confidence doesn't come from likes, but from conviction. And that's what makes it so rare. These people have developed what psychologists call an internal locus of control, the ability to find worth within, not from outside approval. They don't measure success by engagement, but by the peace they feel at the end of the day. They don't need an audience to validate their existence. And that emotional independence creates something the connected world has lost: stability, the serenity of being, even when unseen. But what's most fascinating is that this tranquility doesn't make them distant. It makes them more present. Because when you stop seeking approval, you begin to see others with more empathy and depth. It's confidence that doesn't compete, it observes. And at that point, silence becomes a mirror, reflecting a truth we all feel but rarely acknowledge. Maybe those who speak less understand more. What if silence isn't absence, but a mirror? In a world obsessed with visibility, those who choose the shadows end up revealing more about all of us than we think. They remind us of something we've forgotten: the value of the invisible. Because not everything real needs to be shown, and not everything shown is real. Sometimes the most human act is simply to exist, without proving it. Those who don't post aren't hiding. They're preserving what's sacred. They keep their truths away from algorithms, their emotions beyond metrics, their memories safe from public distortion. They force us to look inward and ask, why do we need to be seen to believe we exist? Maybe what we seek out there is just a reflection of what we've lost in here, the ability to be at peace with our own silence. And it's that silence that closes the cycle. A powerful reminder that presence isn't the same as exposure, and authenticity doesn't require an audience. Being invisible sometimes is the purest act of freedom, because those who learn to live without an audience learn to live for real. And maybe in the end it's them, the ones who don't post, who are truly living.